Hello, everyone. Welcome to this industrial interaction on how machine learning is transforming industry. My name is Gunjan, and with me, we have Romil Shah, who is an applied scientist at Amazon Web Services. Romil is a very good friend of mine, and I hope this interaction, this industrial interaction is going to be very fruitful, not just for the participant who are watching right now, but also to all the participants who watch this interaction maybe later on. That was a very short information from my side for you, Romil. I'll request you to give a good introduction of yourself. Now it's to you, Romil. Romil, you're mute, so I'll request you to unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for that, Gunjan. Yeah, hey guys, I'm Romil. I work as an applied scientist at Amazon Web Services. I have been heavily involved in machine learning with industries in an industrial setup since quite long. And I think the journey of machine learning began with together, right, Gunjan, about 10 years ago when we decided to do things about computer vision and machine learning. Yeah, I've worked in quite a few industries. I've worked in self-driving cars. I've worked in Ford, Volvo, Dolby, and now I work at Amazon. But the general thing has always been the same: is machine learning and computer vision and deep learning.
Okay, thanks, Romil, for a great introduction of yourself. I'll also inform about MATLAB Helper to everyone. MATLAB Helper is a team of experienced tutors and experts who provide assistance in MATLAB and Simulink with programming and modeling. So whether it's machine learning, artificial intelligence, or something dealing with electric vehicle or any sort of stuff where MATLAB or Simulink can be involved, we provide assistance in it with that. I would also like to inform everyone who has already joined this YouTube live or YouTube premiere. So if you are watching it through the webinar page, I'll request you to come to the YouTube page so that you can post comments. You are supposed to subscribe to our channel in order to be able to post your queries. At the end of this session, Romil is going to take 3 names, whoever he feels are the best 3 comments for the session. Romil, I hope those 3 comments are really good, that make you either nervous, excited, or I don't know what, but it gives you a real chill that you were asked those questions. I do also have lots of questions of mine, so I'll keep on mixing up. So eventually, I want everyone who is watching this session, please start asking questions. I'll try to take up those queries as soon as possible. And right away, I'll start with my first question. Okay. So, Romil, what do you remember from the starting of MATLAB Helper? Since you already mentioned that we started working together in MATLAB Helper, so what do you remember about MATLAB Helper at starting days?
So I think what I remember is when we started a startup, that startup was in machine learning, IoT, and deep learning, right? And this was 10 years back when IoT was just picking up. Like machine learning people didn't even know, but we didn't know, right, what machine learning is. We learned through the process. And that's when I think most of our proof of concept that we were doing, I think a lot of that started off with MATLAB. And even during undergrad, right, I started off with C, C++, but then I really could not get a hang of it. So the way I actually learned how to code was through MATLAB. So I think, yeah, that has been a really fun journey to go from MATLAB and then eventually learn other programming languages for sure. But yeah, that has been a huge stepping stone towards being where am I.
So, Romil, what kind of experience you had with MATLAB during the college time, or even during the period of MATLAB Helper that probably deals with machine learning, the theme of this session? Do you recall anything?
During undergrad, I've not used MATLAB for machine learning. I have used MATLAB for basic image processing and basic computer vision things, but not for machine learning. But I think during my grad studies, during my master's, I was using MATLAB extensively for a lot of machine learning related coding activities. I think we had to do a lot of things from scratch. So I used to write code in MATLAB. And yeah, it has been useful. Then I think they came up with a lot of inbuilt tools, and that became a lot more useful as well. Yeah.
So if we are talking about MATLAB during the college time, just during your undergrad, when we were together, do you recall any project we did with MATLAB? Anything like you remember?
I remember we used to do a lot of signal processing and digital signal processing, a lot of image processing with this. I think with MATLAB, I do recall. I'm not sure if we did a project together, but I do recall I did a project where I was using GUI and other things of MATLAB to create something or to display some results. Yeah.
So then we started some project under Idea Labs in our university, which was dealing with assisting visually impaired people. At that point of time, we were using C, C++, Python. We started eventually saying we were getting result better
Right.
than MATLAB. So why didn't we use MATLAB basically, if you recall?
Oh yeah, no, thanks for nudging me in the right direction. Yeah, so I think I recall that we started off by just doing some proof of concept in MATLAB, and then we realized that it's really good. We're getting some results, but eventually, if we have to move these to production or something, then we would need some really low latency things. And I think C++ provided us that platform to do something with really less time requirement on a very basic embedded system board, right? So I think the reason why we moved on to C++, as I recall, is MATLAB had a latency issue. But yeah, I think even currently in industry that I see is, proof of concept is being done in MATLAB because it's just much easier. It's a lot readable. But eventually, if things have to move to production, it becomes a tedious task. So then eventually we move to C, C++, Java in that case.
Okay. So as far as I recall from MATLAB point of view, so we started working on our project. We had lots of papers which we found on the internet, which were dealing with the theme which we were working on related to assisting visually impaired people. However, the support or the material, like literally into the MATLAB coding, wasn't available. So even if we talk about lot of research paper which are written these days, so everyone will talk about complex terms, mathematical equations, the figures which are generated, which are all with MATLAB. Obviously, most of the times it's with MATLAB, but those codes are not available to everyone. So we also faced a lot of challenges in dealing with MATLAB coding at that period of time. And that was one of the reasons why we started on MATLAB Helper, that to provide assistance to those who are looking related to MATLAB papers, maybe MATLAB stuff, homework, or any kind of stuff. And we guide them how MATLAB is easy to do. So when we started, we also didn't had a very good amount of MATLAB knowledge, and it evolved eventually, step by step. It was kind of a process learning experience for us also at that point of time. When MATLAB Helper was launched at that point of time, there was no such hype about machine learning, artificial intelligence. So yes, a lot of time we feel like we were above the time or earlier than the time of that, whatever project we were working upon. And now as we see the project, it's kind of surprising to see that we did those discussion, presentation before a time when it was even ready.
Yeah, I remember that because I think when we started MATLAB Helper, we started it off with some basic help that we could provide and based on what our knowledge is. And then we used to get some projects, some requests from people in industry or researchers, anything, and we used to work on that. And I remember at least I got to learn about Simulink for the first time at that point of time, because before that I was like, okay, this is something which MathWorks provides, but I have never used it really. And yeah, I think a lot of things that we did back then with respect to machine learning, a lot of things that these days we find it in a Python library or in a C++ library, or even MATLAB has created its own applications. But back then, I think a lot of things that we used to do was just right from scratch. So I think we were right in the beginning of the boom, I think.
Okay, so now coming to the MATLAB-based project. Now, you had done some of the projects. Do you remember any of those projects? Or do you have any of those projects with you? which you had worked with us?
I have done a few projects, and I think if today I go to my GitHub repository, I think some of the oldest projects I've did was in MATLAB. So I remember, there is this application called Cam Scanner.
Yeah.
You scan the documents and everything. So I did a project because I was using machine learning. So I did a project where I was using MATLAB to do all of this. You just have to send a document, and then it would basically scan the document and everything, and then give you out a nice result. So I remember doing all of these projects. And I think one other project I did was using Raspberry Pi. So MATLAB has a really nice way to connect IoT devices like Raspberry Pi, and you can send responses, get responses, read an image, or do a lot of things with that. So I think that has been some of the really cool projects which I've worked with MATLAB.
Do you want me to show any of those projects?
Yeah, no, please go for it.
All right, so let me share my screen. Great. So I have some of the project, not really all. I'll just show you one of the project which you had done. So you can see the date. April 20.
Wow, this is nearly 7 years ago.
So let me open it while I don't know, I just got it yesterday while looking for the materials which you had worked upon, and I'll try and show. I don't know whether they will run or not, but I'll see. So eventually, Romil, when you started working on all these things, and what led you to stop working for MATLAB Helper? Why did you left?
Why did I leave? So I think whilst working for MATLAB Helper, I realized that we were fresh graduates. We came out of undergrad, and we were learning a lot of things through experience, which is good. But I realized that I think I need some more, deep understanding into machine learning and how it can be used into an industry. Because even the first startup that we came up with together, talking about Telmet Helper, where we were creating a device for visually impaired people. I think we were doing a lot of the things which industries are doing these days. It's just that we didn't have a lot of knowledge. We didn't have a lot of resources back then. So we were limited by that. So I think that's when I decided to just pursue masters and get some more in-depth understanding of machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, because those were the buzzwords when we started working, right? So yeah, I think that was the main inspiration.
So from looking at this Simulink model, do you recall anything? What have you done?
I remember this was a power electronics project, I think, where we were working on some sort of motors. I don't recall a lot, but I think it's some sort of motors that we were working with and just trying to prove something.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I had lots of projects actually, which deals with MATLAB. With some of them worked by you. As far as I recall, we started MATLAB Helper around 2015 June, really as a portal dealing with MATLAB. We started working on MATLAB tasks well before that.
Yeah.
So a portal was created later on. We already had lots of people who were asking assistance to us. So the day we created this portal, we got our first client on that day itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. The work was done next day. It got submitted. It got over. So eventually, how we call people, people starts creating business startup. They look for break even, and also it eventually happened for us that we started working. A day later, we were in profit.
Yeah. No, I remember because you created a website and then you started hosting a chat bot and everything there to talk with people, to talk with potential clients. And remember, you were like, okay, Romil, this is gonna cost X much amount. I'm just gonna go for it, and I'm gonna run some Facebook ads as well. So this is gonna be the cost. And I was thinking, okay, we have created MATLAB Helper with the idea of getting some profit. How can we, when would we be able to do break even? But I think the very next day, I remember, the very next day we were able to do break even, and then it's just been an amazing journey henceforth.
All right, great. So moving forward, when we talk about how machine learning is transforming industry, what really motivated you basically from graduation stage that, yes, machine learning is the thing on which I wish to continue working upon? What was that logic behind your work shifting towards that?
I think a lot of that inspiration came from the work that we did. The Telmet Helper device that we created, as well as working through MATLAB Helper. I realized that machine learning is the big thing. It's sad because back then I even thought that Bitcoin was a big thing, but I did not buy Bitcoin. I so wish I would have bought Bitcoin, but I knew that machine learning was big for sure. So I decided to just because I remember a lot of our friends were moving into really hardcore electronics like VLSI and embedded systems and everything. But I always had this thing. I always trusted that machine learning would make it really big in industry. So yeah, I think that was our biggest inspiration for me.
Okay, so we have a question on YouTube, a comment saying from Super A saying, what were the challenges you faced shifting from MATLAB to US? I guess India to US.
I'm assuming from MATLAB Helper to US maybe. I think one of the biggest challenge was I mentioned earlier that I had really less experience working in an industry. So, and when working in industry and you're not working as a researcher, a lot of the work that you do is in C++ and Python and everything. So it took me a while to learn C++, because a lot of my projects, which I do, sure, I mean, the research part happened in MATLAB, but then when you have to shift it to production and, take it to like really deploy it for people, it has to be in C++. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me, I would say.
Okay. And the same person is asking another question. How is Bitcoin related to ML?
Oh, interesting question. So the reason why I mentioned Bitcoin is that back then in 2014, 2015, Bitcoin was not very much heard of, similar to machine learning, which was not very much heard of. So I I just said, if I knew about Bitcoin, I would have bought it back then. But if this question about Bitcoin is in terms of machine learning is about predicting how things work, then yeah, I mean, machine learning is definitely involved in a lot of stock prediction, a lot of price prediction of different things. So and there's this bunch of work that is happening here. It's you can't say for sure that Bitcoin is going to be 50,000 in the next year or so, but machine learning can definitely help you understand the implications of a few parameters that you put in to understand, okay, this is the range where Bitcoin might move in. So I don't know what this question is written about, but yeah, I hope I was able to answer the question.
All right, great. So there is another question from Ankit, and he is asking, how is machine learning helping the core industries, or if it had to be used in the automation and controlling sections of the core industries, how would machine learning work?
That's a good question. And I'm trying to understand by core industries, you mean manufacturing industries or industries which are, in this case, it's you're mentioning about automation and controlling, right? So that might go into a lot of manufacturing industries. In those cases, it's been extensively used, and I'm working in Amazon Web Services, right? So they provide cloud services for industries. Now, a lot of industries are moving to cloud, and then with cloud, they're also moving to machine learning because let's say it's manufacturing industry, and they require to do something like a defect detection, right? Let's say very simple. You are building a car, and then you are trying to detect if there is a dent in a car or if a color is not painted properly in the car before it's actually shipped to the customer. A lot of that work is done manually. But then with the use of machine learning, all of that processes are automated. So you reduce a lot of labor by reducing, and on the other side, you improve the overall detection. So you improve the overall accuracy or the precision of detecting something. So this is just an example that I gave. But there's so many things that industries are doing these days with machine learning. You have no idea.
All right. So Ankit and Super A, I hope you guys got the answers you were looking for. I would also like to inform again that you guys are supposed to subscribe to the channel in order to post a comment, and post that you will be able, your query will be taken as soon as possible. So Romil, I'm trying to go step by step, like in the industrial interaction from your college time, that is your graduation, to post-graduation, and later on to your really the industries, your internships and all those things, and how machine learning or maybe MATLAB has been making a factor in what so capacity. So before I really shift from college to masters, that is graduate to your US masters, I would like to ask if you recall any of the presentations we did together during our graduation, and did you thought about like any of those presentation were literally gonna be fructified into an industrial form in the future in any capacity?
So many I can think of. I think one of that was, you remember there was a project we did for thermal imaging. It was a presentation we did for thermal imaging.
FLIR cameras, something like that?
Yeah, FLIR cameras. And I think a few years down the line, I saw that there is a company which was created just based on that. And it was amazing to see. I mean, forget that. That was still a very small project. I think even third eye telmet that we did, that was a huge thing. And after I moved to the US, in a year or so, I get to hear that there is a company in Germany who is doing exactly the same thing and probably a bit less than what we were offering, but they were able to get X million dollars of funding. So I feel proud that we did something that we were way ahead of our time, for sure. I mean, you cannot deny that we were so ahead of a lot of people, and that too, like really fresh graduates coming out of an undergrad doing nothing. And on top of that, we did not learn anything of these things in undergrad. We self-taught ourselves all of these things. So I feel proud about that. It's sad that I remember that when we were trying to raise funds, it was tough for us to do that in India. But I think probably if we do that now would be an easier task now that the startup market in India is really good. But yeah, I think that's I keep on remembering Telmet Helper day in, day out. I think that was one project which I can say was our $1 billion idea, which could have turned out into an amazing thing.
So Romil, don't say that we didn't learn in anything in our undergrad, because some of our professor might be watching this session.
No, I mean, I'm just making fun. Of course, I mean, everything we did is because of our schooling, because of our undergrad, because of our masters.
Okay, so you were talking about some of our presentations. So some of the fun things I'm going to show to everyone. You guys will find some fun element in that. We have done lots of presentation from 2012 onwards. That time we were in our third year, I think, or second year.
Yeah, I think.
So I'll show some of the presentation if you recall them. So
I don't recall this one.
So this is on how can we actually remove the traffic jam in Ahmedabad.
Yeah.
So we were in Ahmedabad.
Yeah.
So this paper was basically on that. So
I remember the Bionics.
So many
Bionics
things.
I remember very well.
Bionics is the how should I put it? Like, this is the thing which we started before really moving to our idea on
the
third eye, the telmet. And this had a very nice like kind of topics, which at that point of time was so early. Like, just think about this.
I mean, imagine we were thinking about UAVs back then when people were still, people had no idea about things.
I was like, yesterday when I was looking at this PPT and I felt like, oh my God, like what were we doing at that point of time?
No,
so how exactly those moments? So using the artificial intelligence, how do we replicate natural thing into the machinery? We were working on these things at that point of time. See?
Yeah.
And there is a one slide which actually talks about what's the future things coming into. So yeah, obviously the bionic eye on which we were thinking to start work upon.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
would it?
exactly. And you won't believe I actually came across a product which has a bionic eye. So it's like not bionic eye per se, but it's doing exactly the same thing that you showed a couple of slides ago. So yeah, I think it's amazing.
So look at it, upcoming fields and what we were talking at that time. Artificial intelligence, robotics, computer vision, control system, emergence, learning organization, cybernetics, and then we keep talking about something related to that.
Yeah. No, of course. This has been amazing.
And do you recall this person? The video
I remember this person has been an inspiration. Even for our third eye project, I think this person has been an inspiration. It's not related to our third eye project, but that has been an inspiration.
Okay, so do you want me to play the video? It's a glimpse of this person, what really he was capable of doing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do that.
Sorry, not thank you. How do we play the video?
Well, I was born with a rare visual condition, total color blindness. So I've never seen color, and I don't know what color.
Please confirm whether the audio was audible or not.
No, I was able to hear that.
All right, great. Then let me play it again.
Well, I was born with a rare visual condition, total color blindness. So I've never seen color, and I don't know what color looks like. To me, the sky is always gray, flowers are always gray, and television is still in black and white. Electronic eye, it's a color sensor that detects the color frequency in front of me and send this frequency to a chip installed at the back of my head, and I hear the color in front of me through the bone, through bone conduction. The sound purple. But when I started to dream in color is when I felt the software and my brain had united. Because in my dreams, it was my brain creating electronic sound. It wasn't the software. So that's when I started to feel like a cyborg. It's when I started to feel that the cybernetic device was no longer a device. It had become a part of my body, an extension of my senses.
So obviously, this is one of the presentation, and we had given so many presentations together. Now, my question to you is, we kept on coming second all the time. In all our presentations, we kept on coming second. How do you feel about now? Does it matter like coming second, not really getting first? What about it?
No, I would say, so people always aspire to win. And I think even we aspire to win. I aspire to win. And even in my daily life, I aspire to win. But, and I have always come second in my life, right from the beginning. Even in my school, when we used to get some ranking and everything based on our academics, I used to always be second. And that was so frustrating. But I realized one thing. Coming second actually helped me, and I can speak for myself. I don't know about you, but coming second helped me because that motivated me a lot. Because if I was first all the time, then I would probably lose that motivation. But coming second helped me learn more about things. So let's say we came first in our first presentation, Gunjan, then probably we would not have done any of the future presentations that we did, right? So we kept on coming second, which motivated us to learn more things. And now, like I would say, probably I've learned so many things that has helped me move on and get some really amazing knowledge. So yeah, I think coming second used to hurt. It still hurts, but it's not the end of the world. It actually helped us grow better.
So why I'm saying all this thing is, yes, actually, I agree with your point that coming second really helps. It motivates to try and put more efforts to get the first, or maybe not, like improve yourself, because that clearly gives you a picture. So whatever presentation we did, whatever competition we participated in, we always kept on coming second, unless the final presentation we did. And I think it was in your MS University, Vadodara.
Oh yeah, I think we came first, right?
So we never came first within our own place. Maybe it's like luck or whatever we did, but yeah, we tried and we got something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so talking about some other question people have already asked.
Yeah.
Anvisha has asked, how can a student develop some advanced ideas about machine learning and IoT together to be used with MATLAB? And how do we develop projects in this domain?
So yes, about ML and that's a good question. And I would, when anyone asks me such questions, I always say, and this goes for anyone who even wants to start a startup, right? I always say, look out for problems, because the world is full of problems. And once you find a problem, you can try searching for its solution. So don't try to look out for a solution just randomly. Oh, I want to do something in ML and IoT. I'm going to think of something. No, just look out for a problem. Let's say it's very difficult for me in the morning to wake up and prepare a cup of coffee for me. So that's a problem for me. Now, how can I use machine learning and IoT? Okay, I have a coffee machine. So let's see, can I connect that coffee machine? Because it's an IoT device. So can I connect it to my local network? And ML, can I see if my coffee cup is full or empty? And can I stop pouring coffee or something of that sort? So I might be just thinking out loud here.
No, it's
whoever asked the question, but I think probably thinking about problems would give you more idea as to how to think in those directions. Yeah, you can. These days, I would say using ML and IoT to solve a problem is very easy. It's just identifying a problem and seeing if someone has not done it. I think it's going to be helpful.
All right. Anvisha, we hope you got the answer to your query. If you have any further query, please post in the comment section. And coming further to our next question, Prashant has asked, what is the use of machine learning in automobile R&D department?
That's a very specific question. I think I worked in, there's so many things. I worked in Volvo and I worked in Ford Motor Company. So in Volvo, I was involved in, so Volvo makes these big trucks, like huge trucks and huge construction machines. So they were trying to make those machines into autonomous vehicles. And it was a very different challenge. So yeah, I think in automobile for construction equipments, a lot of work is being done where ML is used to avoid hitting people, avoid like move on a straight path, things of those nature. Like you've seen Tesla, you've seen the self-driving of Tesla, for example. So in those directions. One of the interesting problem I worked with was when I was working for Ford and I was working for NASCAR racing. So similar to F1 racing, there is a competition called NASCAR racing, and they were using machine learning on the vehicle to see if they can improve a driver's performance. And this was all in research because nothing of that was put on actual road. But all of that was happening when they were trying to see if they can improve some of the driver performances.
All right, great. Another question, it's from Jet, and the question is, can we make a dynamic dashboard with MATLAB? We're integrating with another website. How about ML if we include in the dashboard? Is that something you can answer?
Oh, that's a curveball. Yeah, that's something I think I might not be able to take it because I'm sure you can create a dynamic GUI with MATLAB, but I'm not sure if how you can do that with website because it's been a while. I think probably you or your team are the right folks to answer this question, right? Because you work with all of these things day in, day out. But I think if the backend is in MATLAB, and if that's the case, then I think you can use ML somewhere in the backend. But connecting that with like a website, I don't know.
Okay, so I'd like to answer this question. Please use App Designer. Create a standalone application if you want to create it completely in app form. You can also deploy that whatever app you're creating into a web server. Once deployed, you will be able to use it completely dynamically with machine learning involved with the data set and all. Now for that, you need to have a MATLAB cloud server license. And eventually you need to have the data set and all most of the things onto cloud in order to do that job, obviously. But yes, it's possible. And how about ML if including the dashboard? So for ML, see, we keep on saying ML, it's a generic term. What really the task is, that's basically defines what we want to do. So if you, for example, if you want to take a dictionary and you want to detect what words should come after in a sentence, you want to think what would be the next word, what is a better active sense, passive sense. So different kind of things which you are trying to do. So you can do all those things provided you have a complete knowledge about these, the requirement in terms of what I would like to add. All right, so moving ahead, there is a question from me. Now moving from your graduation to post-graduation. So was ML part of your post-graduation in any way when you started it in US?
Yeah, my major was in machine learning. So the way I decided to do is I started to do masters in computer engineering with my major focus in machine learning, computer vision, and deep learning. But yeah, basically machine learning. So most of the courses I took were focused towards machine learning. Even the internship that I did, my internship was in Volvo. So that was also focused in computer vision and machine learning.
You have mentioned several companies in your bio, which you already worked with. You mentioned Volvo, you mentioned Dolby, Ford. So did you work with all these companies as a part of internship, or some of them were real as a job?
No, so my work with, when I say, so my internship was with Volvo. But when I say internship, that was actually a 9-month-long internship. So I was actually working on a project which, after a year or so, was planned to go into production. I don't know if it actually went to production or not because I left my internship. I was just assigned a 9-month plan. But the whole plan was to move that into production. But yeah, that was a really good experience. But the others have been full-time jobs which I did.
So when we talk about all these companies, how was MATLAB involved into your work? Were you really using it MATLAB, or even if you were not using it, how those companies were using MATLAB in their different activities, if you can inform us?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies do hire researchers, PhDs to work on some research topics because they fund research as well. And I've noticed that a lot of research happens in MATLAB. So because it's just very easily readable language, right? Like a scripting language. So I think that way it's being used in industries. But whenever things are to move to production or things are to move to like real-time development, that's when Python or C++ takes most of the task. Answering to your question, I have worked, I think in one of the projects I did, I had to do a proof of concept and I had to create a GUI application. So it was really difficult for me to do that in Python because I was still learning that. So I did that in MATLAB. It was just much easy, like drag and drop and all of that. And I remember you mentioned that they have even made the process smoother than what it was a few years back. So yeah, MATLAB had been useful, but I think of lately I've been only focusing on Python, C++ because I work in production or like really close to deployment a lot. But I think even these days because there are some research papers which I have to refer to and see if that research is useful for some of our work. And that research paper, let's say in GitHub or somewhere, is still written in MATLAB. So if I would not have some knowledge of MATLAB, then I would have to learn it because I would eventually have to convert that into whatever I'm using.
All right. So when we talk about all these experiences before really coming to AWS, how exactly your knowledge of machine learning shifted from one company to another company? One talking about maybe car, truck from another company, let's say Dolby with vision, image, and then audio, and then now to AWS where it's more about cloud. So how the journey has been from one field to another field, how machine learning has been changing into that?
Yeah. The way I classify it as machine learning and computer vision can be used to solve a lot of problems. And in all of these scenarios, wherever projects I've worked for, so let's say Volvo and Dolby, I've only worked for automobile related problems. Volvo and Ford. And in Dolby, I was working in vision, so Dolby Vision, Dolby Sound related problems where machine learning is being used. So a lot of problems faced in these industries can be solved with machine learning. It's just that you need to have an overall understanding of how would you use machine learning. You can't just go in and say, oh, I'm going to solve this problem with ML. It's not going to happen that way. You need to have an understanding as to how to approach a problem and if ML would fit in, how would ML be able to solve it? I'll give you an example. In one of the project I was working for, someone approached me and they wanted to detect barcodes. So they were like, oh, can we use machine learning to detect barcodes or computer vision to detect barcodes? Yes, you can do that. But there is a cheaper, there is a faster, there is a much better solution available these days. And it's called just a laser. So wherever you, like even if you go to a shopping mall, they scan your barcodes, right? They use a laser there. So they're not using any complex machine learning or any computer vision there. So not every time would you end up using machine learning, but yes, there are cases when it is inevitable to use computer vision machine learning, so you have to use it. But yeah, my journey through all of this has been understanding when, how, where to use machine learning, and that has been that has been an amazing journey.
So how I would put it in Hindi with an easy term, sote jaagte sare work was machine learning. All right, fine. So moving ahead to another question. The question is from Soumya, and she's asking, please show roadmap for a beginner ML engineer in AWS.
So roadmap for a beginner ML engineer in AWS. Okay, so I'm trying to understand. I think the question might be coming from the perspective, how would someone...
I think the question would be how to become ML engineer at AWS as a fresher. Something like that.
Yeah, as a fresher. I'm going to replace AWS over here with any XYZ company. So it does not matter, right? Where you work for. I think the roadmap would be the same, Soumya. If you're working for any company, even if it's a startup or you're creating your own startup, doesn't matter. The roadmap is more or less the same. And as I mentioned just a few minutes back, it's all about trying to understand if you want to use machine learning, and if you want to, like how, when, where would you use it? So it's just a learning that you get from that is more helpful.
All right. Super A is asking, is deep learning similar to machine learning?
I always call deep learning as a fancy cousin of machine learning. So machine learning is like a big umbrella, and under that, if you're using neural networks, if you're using something really specific, then yes, you would have deep learning. But I just use the general term of machine learning mostly. Rarely would I say deep learning, because even neural nets is machine learning.
So when you keep saying machine learning as a bigger umbrella of deep learning, and then deep learning includes the neural network, where would neural network fit under the umbrella of machine learning? Again, it's a cousin.
So the way it was defined originally is that neural nets. So deep learning term was not coined a few years back. It was all machine learning and neural nets. Because back then we did not have a lot of capability, a lot of like CPU, GPU power to run really deep neural networks. So we had really short neural networks. So we just used to call them NNs, just neural nets. But then eventually we realized that, now we have better computing power. So now we can improve our neural nets. We can make it larger. We can make it big. We can make it deeper. And that's how we started calling it deep learning. That's when deep learning term was coined. But before that, it was an ambiguous term. Or should we just keep neural nets in machine learning, or should we call it something else? And then eventually we decided, okay, we're going to call it deep learning under the huge umbrella of machine learning.
Okay. So wouldn't you say like all these things come under artificial intelligence, everything?
Yeah, artificial intelligence is a huge, like a huge tree. And then one of that fruit is machine learning, one of that is deep learning, one is computer vision, NLP, all of that is like subsections of it.
So can artificial intelligence also be covered under something under umbrella of which artificial intelligence comes? Anything bigger than that?
That's a good question. I've never really thought of that.
Okay. So I would add, I have something in my mind. That's why I asked the question. We have a thing called industry standards, industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. Now, industry
Right.
4.0 basically includes several domains. So artificial intelligence, one of the main branch of that.
Also in industry 4.0. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it will, and along with that, I would say it spheres maybe big data, then
IoT.
then automation and different kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yes,
Lot of
it falls under that umbrella, which are not exactly related with that, but somehow part of it.
Yep. I agree.
Moving ahead, another question. You are saying you work in AWS, but it's IoT and cloud computing. How is cloud computing related to IoT and ML as well as MATLAB?
This is a really, really good question. I really like it. So I think if you want to add that to your list, Gunjan, maybe just go for this one for sure. Yes, it's a valid question. So AWS is cloud computing, but so not sure if the person who's asked this question is familiar with what happens in cloud computing as far as machine learning is concerned. But they provide multiple services. AWS provides a lot of services that you can use to. The easiest one that everyone knows is S3, where you use it to store data. It's more like your Google Drive, right? But then it provides something like EC2 instance, where you can create your own, like you can just hire a CPU or a GPU, and you can run everything there. And then they provide another service called SageMaker, which is where you can run your ML services. So the way AWS is, or any cloud computing is set up is, let's say I, as an individual, I don't have money to buy a GPU. I don't have money to have the entire setup at home. I don't want to pay for electricity for a GPU if I want to train a machine learning model or something, right? But if I go to AWS and if I go to SageMaker, I can just hire a GPU, like quote unquote hire, but you basically rent a GPU for a few hours or something until your work is done. And you just pay for that hour. It's just like $1-2 for an hour, or it's dirt cheap. You don't have to invest like $2,000 of machine in your home or in your office. So yeah, short answer to your question, AWS has a lot of machine learning services which you can use to train a model, even use that to deploy. They also have certain services which you can use to deploy on an IoT device. So now IoT devices are a lot of devices these days. I'm not sure if you know, but apart from Raspberry Pi, there is a device called Jetson, which is by NVIDIA. And those are IoT devices where you can run a machine learning model at a really, really good rate. AWS Cloud Computing also provides a solution where once you create your machine learning model in the cloud, you can use their service to even deploy it to your device and then run it there. So let's say I have a company, and in my company I have a lot of Jetsons and Raspberry Pis connected with camera, and I'm doing some manufacturing, and I want to detect something in that with machine learning. So I connect all of these devices to my AWS cloud. And sitting at home, I can operate all these devices. Sitting at home, I can just send a command, get an image from device A, and I will be able to see the device, like the image from device A here, right? And then I'm like, okay, I've trained a machine learning model. Let me just push that machine learning model to all of these devices. And then once it runs, I want the data to be stored in a place where I can visualize it. So all of these services are being provided by cloud computing, like AWS. So it's a conglomerate of a lot of things. So it's not just cloud computing. It's not just, okay, you get an instance. It's not that, oh, you are able to store your data. It's a lot of things combined together. And that's what industries are doing these days. So they are doing a lot of these things because in a scale, in a big industry, you have so many devices connected. You don't want an engineer to try and see each device individually. You decided, okay, this device works perfectly. Whatever I've done, whatever packages I've installed, everything I've done is working good in one device. Now, using my AWS, I'm just going to scale it for 1,000 devices. And I'm just going to see if, how my results are coming in. So it's a very long answer to the question by the user, but I think this was a good question. So for sure, it's nice.
Okay, thank you.
I hope I was able to answer that, and at least clear a lot of other people's
sure.
thoughts as well.
So Super A, first of all, congratulations that you are the first person to be rewarded for this certification. Next 2% maybe will be announced soon. He has asked another question which says, do you get internships in ML? Which company supports that?
Oh, all of the work which I've done, or at least the people I know who have done their internships, they can get an internship in ML. And I think probably Gunjan, you are more you are the right resource to answer this question as far as India is concerned. But what I see from here, India is doing really amazing in machine learning. People are doing really good stuff there. Like I think India is going to be the next machine learning hub. After
India is going to be best of everything in next coming years.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
And yes, coming to the internship part, obviously MATLAB Helper does provide internship to all the deserving candidates. So maybe you can check our career page and look for something which suits your profile. Coming further, another question, it's from Jay and says, how to start machine learning from basics?
There's multiple ways. Let's say I am someone who does not have any knowledge. I am not an engineer. Let's say I'm coming from another stream. I'm coming from sales or marketing, and I want to learn machine learning. Then I think the first way to begin is to start or take some courses. And I'm sure MATLAB Helper is providing some courses with machine learning as well. So I'm doing your advertising.
In the virtual link
in the virtual background.
I don't know which side it would be, but yeah.
So definitely take some courses and get some basic understanding. But let's say you are an engineer, you know some basics, you know math. In those cases, I would say take some of the courses, or like enroll in a university, take some courses, take some on-ground courses, because I think machine learning is just pure math. So people call it black box. People call it, it's just something happening in the background. We don't know. It's just because they really don't know. Machine learning is pure math. So if you are an engineer, if you are if you know some basic math, then I think you should take some really advanced classes. Because if you start learning the math behind machine learning, everything is going to be easy. So the whole of artificial intelligence is going to be easy because everything is just math, and math.
Okay, so just adding to what you already said, obviously we do provide a course on machine learning. It's a premium course. Link is mentioned in the virtual background as well as in the video description. So you can click on the link. You can enroll in the course and start learning MATLAB, machine learning with MATLAB. All right, so moving ahead, I have a lot of questions, and I think we are going to be out of time. So Romil, are you comfortable if we extend it for a couple more minutes, like not really for 1 hour, but extending it? Would you be comfortable?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm really liking the questions which are coming from people. Some of them are really interesting, and I can feel that because I have been in the journey where I had similar questions. Because when I started, I was like, oh, how to do machine learning? I have no idea.
So when you are telling about this is actually one of my questions where I was going to ask, like, such kind of industrial interaction. Have you gone through such industrial interaction in the past during your entire journey?
Not a lot. I wish I got a chance. I wish I had a chance to get to know people, get to do some interactions. But again, back then, I think industries were not very much focused on machine learning. So all of these interactions were, I could not get really good access to it. But I used to ask a lot of questions to my professors, and that helped me a lot. Not just professors, but my co-classmates and everyone, and that helped me a lot. I used to ask tons of questions. But yeah, so I would say if you don't find resources, just try to approach someone who you think is a right resource, like a professor or a university, or in this case MATLAB Helper, because provide some professionals there, because that's how you'll get to know things.
All right. So moving to your AWS, how is your role as an applied scientist, or what is a day in the life of applied scientist at AWS?
When I answered the question of one of the person, right, who asked about cloud computing and IoT, ML and everything, that answer was based on what I do in my day-to-day job. So,
so in that case, I'll request you, can you show anything with respect to machine learning to the audience who is watching this session? Anything
yeah, with respect to industries, right?
What maybe motivates you to do the machine learning? Anything?
Okay, let me see if I can find something. I'm just going to show what like machine learning in an industrial setup looks like.
And do you use MATLAB in your work currently at AWS, or anything you can say about MATLAB?
Currently, it's been currently I don't use MATLAB. As I mentioned, like I think there are some of the research papers which are written in MATLAB, and I have to refer to them, and then if I really like it, I have to convert that to Python, C++, so that some of the task is being taken care of. That's when I do use it, but not like actively coding MATLAB.
Okay.
So I'll just give an example of how my day-to-day life is. Like if you see this, I just took an image from from Google. But the whole idea is that, let's say you have a station here, and there's a person who is scanning these devices, or there's this products, whichever is happening on the conveyor belt, right? To see if a product is right, or a product is like shaped correctly and everything. All of this can be automated, and all of this can be turned it into a cloud product. So let's say there is another device here which automatically scans things, and you want to upload to cloud saying, okay, I was able to scan 1,000 items. I was not able to scan 2 items. So my error is 2 out of 1,000, like is about some percentage, XYZ. So all of this is my day-to-day job, where I have to connect all of these devices to the cloud. I have to run machine learning model, try to get the output out of it, and say, okay, my machine learning model is more powerful than a human being doing the same job in terms of accuracy, in terms of speed and everything. So that's how anyone who wants to use our services, they'll end up using. Okay, I'm saving money, I'm saving time, I'm saving effort here, so I'm going to do this. That's what happens.
All right, thanks, Romil, for sharing that idea. Now, since you're working at AWS, which is a cash cow of Amazon, how exactly are you asked? A lot of questions maybe you are asked regarding Amazon, what kind of benefits, etc. stuff, just related to Amazon and not specific to the AWS. So what generally do you respond to such, or anything you can say, most weird questions you are asked about it?
The first time I told my family that I started working for Amazon, everyone started asking me like, hey, our package is not delivered on time. Can you do something about it? The website keeps on crashing. Can you do something about it? Like, no, that's not my job. I think working for Amazon has been amazing. But in terms of benefits, I don't get a lot of benefits. I do my day job. I'm happy. I think one of the benefit I get is I learn a lot. I get to learn a lot. I work with really amazing people. I work with really smart folks, people who have done like PhDs and postdocs from Stanford, MIT, amazing universities, IITs. I get to work with those folks, and I really like it, and I get to learn on a daily basis. But from perks perspective, your package gets delivered in 2 days, my package gets delivered in 2 days. It does not happen that my package gets delivered in a few hours. It does not happen that way.
Okay, so now when we are talking about benefits, in terms of technical, I know you have already got a couple of patents already under your name, under your belt. So can you inform a rough timeline within which, like, for example, you create an innovation today. Now, what would be the next process? How does it get applied for the patent, and when do you really get these approval or so? What generally happens in that?
So I don't recall the process. I have a brief idea about the process in India, because you remember, Gunjan, we were talking to our professors in Nirma trying to patent one of our idea. So I know that in India it takes a while. It takes 5 to 7 years to get a patent. But I know the process in US. It's more or less the same, but it's just that it's more streamlined. And I think in India they might just streamline it really soon, because Indian patent industry is moving in a really good direction. But the way that I do and the way that I've seen people do is most of my patents. I think I have about 9 patents. Most of those patents I had filed actually 3 years ago when I was working for Ford. And they are getting approved a lot of them got approved this year. So it took them nearly 3 or 4 years to get approved. It goes through a lot of processes. It has so many steps. And then one of the biggest steps is that before it gets approved for a patent, they put it publicly for everyone to see it. And let's say you saw that patent. Not that patent. Before it's being granted, you saw that. And you have the right to contest saying, oh, I have an idea which is similar to this one, and I had actually applied for a patent before Romil did. So in that case, my patent would get cancelled and yours would be approved, or of that nature. So it goes through a lot of processes. It's a tedious task, but if you have an idea and if you think it's amazing, just apply for it. One benefit about some of the industries which I've worked for is that they have lawyers which apply for you. So you just have to jot down your idea. You just have to give them oh, this is going to be my idea. This is what I'm proposing. And then they'll see and they say, oh, is this viable to be a patent or not? Because you have to spend money for that. It's not an easy task. So they'll help you out. And I think it's the same thing in India as well, because they have patent lawyers. I know a few patent lawyers in India.
So when we are talking about India, actually the MSME, the part of Startup India, etc., they have streamlined the process a lot, but still the pricing is slightly high for business. But as a student or someone who is into their education or just a startup, there are some additional advantages for them in terms of the cost that has actually improvised the working of copyright, patent, trademark, etc.
Yeah, of course. But I think if you're a student, probably you can take some help from the university, because I remember our university was ready to help us. The only caveat is that you will not own the patent. So let's say in the future, the patent goes into a production, is bought by someone, like by a company or something, you will not get any royalties until unless you have some clause with the university, but you will be definitely identified as an inventor. So, but still, I mean, in the beginning of your career, when you're doing something, I think it's a good idea to just, get that done.
All right. So Romil, can you explain about machine learning in a way that can easily be understood even by someone in a student as a maybe class 8 student? So without really using technical jargons, how would you explain ML in our day-to-day life?
It's so funny that you asked this question, because just a few days ago, my father asked me, what am I doing for a job? Because people used to ask him and he's like, oh, he works for Amazon. But what is Romil actually doing? So I had to explain it to him. And he is someone who has no idea about anything that has happened in the industry since past 20 years, or in the software industry since past 20 years. So I had to explain it to him what machine learning is doing. So the way I do that is, let's say you have there's a newborn baby. That newborn baby is able to see the world, but is not able to understand what's happening around the world. But throughout time, you keep on telling the newborn baby, you keep on using words, hey, come on, speak mama, speak papa, speak mama, speak papa, speak dada, dadi, whatever, So the kid eventually understands who is mother, who is father, who is grandparents, who is cousin, who is brother, sister. So all of that takes through a process. You teach the kid saying, oh, I am your papa, I am your papa. And then after a while, the kid understands that you are the papa. So when you ask the kid, hey, where is papa? The kid would end up pointing in the direction, oh, there's papa. But after a few more months or a year or so, the kid starts speaking as well. So now, along with pointing in the direction, the kid also says, oh, here is my papa. And then the kid starts learning their own name. And then eventually, like few years down the line, they start writing your name. They start writing their own name. So all of this is a part of machine learning. So in a machine learning model, when the first model you build, it is basic. It is a newborn baby. It knows nothing. It is a dumb model. But you keep on feeding data, saying, okay, this is a cat. This is a dog. This is a coffee cup. This is a bottle. This is a laptop. And then eventually, you train the model, and then it understands, okay, this is the cup. So if I see two eyes, then there is high chance that two eyes belong to a cat or a dog or a human. But then now if there is a tail, then there can be cat or a dog. It's not possible that two eyes belong to human. So, eventually the machine learning model would end up learning what you're trying to predict. But yeah, it's the entire process is very similar to making a baby understand the world.
So you have given a very good example with baby. Here we can see when really the achievement or the outcome happens. But in real life, when we are talking about the industries where they are using machine learning, do they already know what is the expected output? Or it is learned via process and later on finalized like, yes, that's accurate. How generally it happens in your case? Are you working on the basis of a target well in advance, or just work on this something and maybe let's see what will be the output?
I think both approaches are being used, but I usually work in the scenario where a target is provided, because now machine learning industry is very mature. So we know what is to be expected. We know that this is definitely solvable by machine learning. We know this is not solvable by machine learning. So we know an expected target saying, okay, I want to detect a coffee cup. I know that with the current capabilities, we are able to detect a coffee cup by 95%. I know that pushing to 98% would be a difficult task. So let's say I'm going to give you an expectation of doing 97%. I don't want 98, but I think we can still try for 97. So yeah, we do have that target. And that's where I work in, is given a target, I'm trying to see if my machine learning model is able to achieve that target or not.
All right. So we have also got a question from Supari again. Every positive thing comes with some challenges. What are some of the basic challenges you face?
So I don't know what this question is based about. Yeah, I think
I would rephrase this question in my understanding. What would be the most difficult thing about learning ML, and what is the most easy part of learning ML?
Most difficult is the math behind ML. For someone who does not know math, most easy is math for someone who knows math. I don't know. I think I always associate machine learning with math. If you want to learn machine learning, learn math first.
All right. Another question from Ankit. If a core engineering student wants to make a career in ML, what guidance will you give to shift from core to the area of ML?
I don't know what core means, Ankit, because I think these days machine learning is a core field. If it's not, then I don't know. I mean, I think so, because I remember even Nirma started a course on machine learning and everything. And I was surprised that they're doing that. But by core, do you mean like mechanical, civil?
Ankit, please comment and say what really core you mean by it. And Supari has clarified saying, what are some of the most basic challenges you face in your daily work life?
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest challenge I face is people think machine learning, and I'm just repeating myself. I said this a few minutes back as well. Is people think machine learning can solve everything, and it's difficult for me to make some of the people understand that some things which are happening these days are much better, faster, cheaper than using machine learning. So as I gave an example of the barcode reader. A barcode reader is just using a very simple LED laser kind of device. You don't have to use machine learning, right? So my biggest task, which I face in daily life, is to make people understand how and when machine learning can be used, and can we use, or should we not use at all?
All right. So we are into our last few questions. Now, if in case someone has any query, please post them in the comments and we'll take it up soon. Romil, what would be one piece of advice that you will give to younger version of yourself?
Invest in Bitcoin. No. I think one piece of advice which I would give is if you, because I remember my journey which I took, and I think most of our journey was very similar, right, Kunjan? Because I think most of the people in our undergrad were taking some of the courses which or at least we thought were not aligning with our mindset. Because our mindset was very much into, like machine learning, computer vision, image processing. So I think one thing which I would say to anyone, trying something is just follow what you think is right, and you'll be able to do good in there. You don't have to follow the crowd all the time.
All right. So thanks for that piece of advice. But just before that, you took a joke about Bitcoin. So I'm giving in my official position on that. We agree to disagree on a lot of points, and my position is do not invest in Bitcoin.
No, it was just a joke. Okay, please don't quote me on that as well.
Yeah, and please do your own research before investing in anything. Money is your own matter.
Yeah.
All right. So talking further, how exactly MATLAB is used in production, that is into the real thing which is coming out, versus in the initial prototyping stage? Do you have any idea behind that in AWS?
In production, I've not seen MATLAB a lot. Rather, not seen a lot at all. In prototyping, I've seen MATLAB a lot. So it's being used because I think a lot of applications which MATLAB provides, like Simulink is one of the examples. I'll give you one example. So we talked about machine learning a lot today, but I'm gonna give some food for thought for people who are viewing this. One of that is called reinforcement learning. So we have machine learning, we have deep learning, and there is one other section called reinforcement learning, and that is an upcoming field. It's a very good field that's taking up these days, especially in industries, robotics a lot. Reinforcement learning is going there. Reinforcement learning, a lot of that research happens with Simulink, actually. So you connect Simulink with your reinforcement learning code that you have written, let's say in Python, right? And you connect your Simulink of your MATLAB or anything, and then you run your Python code and try to make some prediction and then provide inputs and whatever. So that's a research area which people are focusing on, is using Simulink with Python for reinforcement learning. But I think some of the ongoing things is like MATLAB is used for a lot of research things. These days, everyone is doing a lot of computer vision there.
So when I ask about MATLAB, my question actually includes Simulink as well in it. So I would add like where some of the places where I know MATLAB is being used in production. So for example, if we talk about any AGS, that is automatic gear shift or any kind of those braking system, Simulink is used a lot by, let's say, BMW, Ford, and all these kind of companies in their production for the vehicles automation. It is used a lot. We get lots of requirement on automation from lots of our clients. So for recently, we received some of the queries about a European standard for AutoSAR, which is probably a global standard, not just European standard, and create a MATLAB-based program that assists in AutoSAR methodology that can be used by industries across the world. MATLAB is a premium partner of that, and MathWorks, sorry. So we have sort of knowledge about that, and we have provided some of the knowledge idea from our side. All right, so we have received another question. It's from Devarshi, and he's asking, for future premises, which profile in your field you would recommend to the college graduate?
Which profile you mean for college graduates? What does it mean exactly? You mean which job? apply to?
Right. Devarshi, it would be great if you can rewrite your question in a elaborate manner. And in the meantime, I would like to know, Romil, how machine learning is used for IoT, if you can answer it.
Yeah, I mean, IoT is so many sensors. As I mentioned, a Raspberry Pi itself is using camera, is connected to so many other sensors like heat sensor, temperature sensor. So use machine learning. So any of the sensor data apart from camera, you use that for prediction. Like, okay, my temperature is going to be XYZ based on my historical data. My humidity is going to be XYZ based on historical data. For images, it's being used to analyze. Now, you have, I'm going to advertise Amazon here, but Amazon has this product called Ring Doorbell. Not sure if people are familiar with that. If not, you should look it up. So it's an IoT device. It's a doorbell with a camera. So when you press the doorbell, you see someone is there with a camera, and then on your phone, it notifies you, okay, someone is ringing a doorbell. So you're able to see the person's face and everything. So all of that is IoT, because that Ring doorbell is connected to your home network. And let's say you are outside, you are in a different country altogether, but you are still able to see that image. That's IoT. Now you are outside, you are traveling, you have your Raspberry Pi with a temperature and a humidity sensor installed in your garden, and you just want to understand if you should water the plants or not. So based on historical data, based on temperature in your area and everything, it would understand if something has to be done. That's where machine learning is.
All right. So, Romil, we are almost already out of the time, but we will still take up one question if someone asks in next 1 or 2 minutes. And if not, I would like to know, my last question from you would be like, how would you summarize MATLAB versus other programming language for a college graduate in their 3rd or 4th year who are looking for placements? What should they learn basically? Because in placement, MATLAB is not that important, but MATLAB is quite useful the moment you move from graduation to post-graduation and PhD. It's very important over there. So what would you say would be the most important programming experience for those 3rd and 4th year kind of students?
In terms of MATLAB or just
in terms of programming, actually, not just MATLAB.
Okay.
Program.
Yeah. I'll just reiterate my journey. So I started learning C and C++, and it took me I could not even write a for loop in C++. I was so confused how to write anything. I was so confused with the syntaxes. But I started learning MATLAB, and I realized, and I got to learn programming more in detail with MATLAB. So I would say anyone who is in their 3rd, 4th and trying to aspire for a job or doing something, you should try to learn at least some of the basic languages. MATLAB is definitely a stepping stone, which can help you. It helped me understand C++ and Python and a bit of Java and JavaScript. But in my day-to-day life, I've mostly used in production. I've mostly used Python and C++ and some of MATLAB. And sometimes Java and JavaScript. But I think someone in 3rd and 4th year, you should just try to understand one language really well, because after that, picking up other languages is really quick. So, or at least just learn a couple of them. I would say Python and MATLAB and C++. These 3 are really important.
So if you say, were you aware of one programming language in a very good way in your 3rd or 4th year?
Just MATLAB, and probably not even that experience.
Devarshi has asked what kind of profile in IT field will be used more in the future.
Okay. Your question is more clear. Thanks for the clarification. So I think blockchain is a very important technology. So when I say blockchain, don't associate that with Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and anything, please. Blockchain is actually a technology in itself, and it's really amazing. Though cryptocurrency is based on it, but it's a very important technology. So I think a lot of that is going to be there in future. I would say cybersecurity. Machine learning is going to be there for the next so many years. But cybersecurity, blockchain, machine learning, focus on sustainability. Sustainability is an IT field if no one knows about it, but where you try to see if you are able to use some of your IoT devices or a lot of these things using machine learning and trying to reduce the power being used, because these days there's a lot of power issues, a lot of climate change issues. So that's one of the important IT fields. So if you have on your profile saying, "Oh, I've reduced power consumption based on my machine learning algorithm by 50%," it's a big deal.
All right. Another question. This is from Sukhwinder. What is scope for non-IT computer branches like mechanical or civil?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
So the same question, but not for IT. Scope for non-IT branches like mechanical or civil for machine learning.
Good question. So, because I think a lot of my friends are in other fields and they have faced similar questions as well. I know a friend who actually did his undergrad and his master's in mechanical, and now is doing his PhD in machine learning with mechanical engineering minor. So what they're doing is he's trying to do is do 3D printing and using machine learning to detect if some of the 3D printed materials if they would be printed, would they end up being strong or weak materials? I think machine learning has a very good importance there. But a lot of civil and mechanical fields are also becoming more of an intersection of computer science and mechanical, or computer science and civil, where you are using some sort of software, and that software is using a lot of technologies these days, like machine learning.
All right. So since we are now at the end of our industrial interaction, I would request you, Romil, to please take 2 more names, because you have already taken a name, Super A, for the awardee of MATLAB Helper Digital Certification. So the other 2 comments for the person whose name you can remember for this.
I remember a question from Jay. He asked about how to learn machine learning from basics. And the reason why I'm picking that is because I used to have this question a lot, and I've gone through that process. And I'm assuming a lot of people would be having these questions. If not, then I think if they would go on and become engineers, or they are still pursuing, they're still thinking what they should do in life, then I think this is a question. It's a very valid question. So just kudos for that. I think it's good.
That's great.
And I think one other question was by Soumya about roadmap, because I think the question was more into how to become ML engineer in any company, not just AWS, but any company. So I think just trying to identify that roadmap is thing.
Right. So congratulations, Soumya, Super A, and Jay. You will be awarded with MATLAB Helper Digital Certification. Please follow the instructions which are shared on the website page regarding that. Contact us through email within the next 24 hours through the registered email address, and we will give you the further set of instructions. And before ending this session, I would like to know, Romil, anything you would like to add? Anything which I probably did not ask you, but you would like to say from your own side regarding machine learning, MATLAB, your experience, anything?
No, I don't know. I think whatever you do, just give your full focus to that, because I remember the journey I took is not by seeing what other people are doing. It's just by following what I think is right. And I could be wrong. I was wrong in a lot of many ways, but I just learned through the process. And I think going back to what we discussed a while back, Gunjan, I hate being second, but I also love that I was second, or we were second, because that has helped me a lot. So don't get discouraged, and I think it's going to be a fun journey.
Okay, great. So thank you everyone for joining up in this industrial interaction. I hope you guys found or you got the answers to your queries. If you feel like you still have any query which you are asking maybe after the session has ended, I'll request you to either post in the YouTube comments or get in touch with us through email, and we will still try and assist you with that maybe in future. Thanks again for joining, and I wish you all the best.